đồ mát và các bạn.
Yeah, in late October 2025, Vietnam's central and northern regions were slammed by one of the most catastrophic flood disasters in years. Relentless tropical moisture unleashed a deluge across cities, mountains, and coastal districts, as if the heavens themselves had burst open. In under 24 hours, some regions recorded over 51 inches of rainfall, an amount most countries see in months. Streets vanished under roaring currents. Homes were swallowed to their rooftops as emergency crews launched rescue boats through avenues once filled with taxis and motorbikes. Landslides thundered through steep valleys, bridges snapped, and power lines crumbled under the surge. Tens of thousands of families fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Tonight, Vietnam faces a terrifying convergence of storms, tides, and climate-fueled rainfall, turning familiar streets into deadly waterways and pushing an entire nation to the brink. When the storm system stalled over central Vietnam, it was as if the sky split open. Within hours, rainfall totals shattered records, overwhelming drainage systems designed for half that amount. In Hue, whole districts vanished beneath 2 to 3 feet of churning floodwater. Cars floated sideways. Street signs disappeared beneath swirling brown torrents, while rescue sirens wailed through drowned neighborhoods. In Thua Thien-Hue, water rose so fast it engulfed the rooftops of parked sedans. Families rushed to second floors, waving flashlights from balconies, praying to be seen before the current surged higher. Power grids failed, plunging entire districts into pitch-black darkness. The only light came from emergency vehicles reflected on the water's glassy surface. In rural provinces, flash floods tore the soil from mountainsides, triggering mudslides that buried roads and homes alike. Military helicopters dropped supplies into isolated villages as inflatable boats struggled through debris-filled alleys. At the coast, record-breaking tides collided with river surges, pushing saltwater deep into freshwater wells, contaminating drinking water for thousands. Food stalls shuttered, public transport collapsed, and schools transformed into makeshift shelters where volunteers handed out bottled water, instant noodles, and blankets. Overnight, Vietnam's vibrant river cities became unrecognizable. Neighborhoods turned into endless shadowed lakes. The question wasn't how this happened anymore, but when it would stop. As night deepened, the storm's fury only intensified. In Hue's historic districts, residents smashed ceiling panels, pulling children into attics to escape the flood. Gas tanks floated loose from submerged motorbikes, sparking fears of explosions as they clanged against concrete. Parents held flashlights high, scanning the dark water for dangerous debris, refrigerators, roof tiles, even uprooted trees. On social media, cries for help flooded emergency pages. We're trapped on the second floor. The water's at the windows. My grandmother can't swim. Please send a boat. In the northern mountains, entire slopes collapsed. A landslide near Ha Giang buried 3 homes under 6 feet of mud. Rescue dogs barked into silence as crews dug with shovels and bare hands. Families fled into forests with nothing but rice and bottled water, while others clung to bridges, praying their height would save them even as the river tugged at the pillars. In Thua Thien-Hue, a father tied his young daughter to his chest with electrical wire, wading through waist-deep current toward higher ground. They emerged trembling, barely conscious, but alive. Power grids crackled out one after another. With every blackout, fear grew. No light, no signal, no idea if the water would rise another inch or 3 feet more. For thousands, survival wasn't heroism. It was instinct, adrenaline, and sheer luck. While terrified residents fought through the darkness, meteorologists raced to understand what had gone wrong. Vietnam's central corridor sits at a deadly intersection of geography and climate, where warm, moisture-laden air from the South China Sea collides with cool northern winds, forming an atmospheric choke point, a stalled rain bomb. 2 storm systems in quick succession funneled massive moisture into a narrow corridor. Instead of passing through, the clouds were anchored by mountains like Bac Ma, squeezing out rain as if someone had upended the ocean. At peak intensity, rainfall exceeded 3 inches per hour, flooding drainage systems built for a fraction of that. Rivers swollen from previous storms could take no more, and upstream dams were forced to release water, sending walls of it rushing into downstream cities like Hue and Hoi An. Urban growth made everything worse. Paved roads and concrete courtyards blocked natural absorption, turning neighborhoods into funnels. Scientists warn this is part of a trend. Sea surface temperatures in the region have risen by more than 1.8 degrees since mid-century, supercharging storms and stretching monsoon cycles. The result: heavier rain, longer floods, more deadly landslides. Vietnam wasn't just drowned by rain. It was overpowered by the physics of a warming planet, where each storm grows harder to predict and even harder to survive. By sunrise, the devastation wasn't just measured in numbers, it was written on the faces of survivors. Families stood on rooftops waving flashlights at passing rescue boats. Infants were wrapped in plastic to stay dry. Pets trembled in their owners' arms. In Thua Thien, volunteers formed human chains to guide the elderly through chest-deep water. A teenage boy ferried medical supplies across flooded streets on his skateboard. In Tu Yen Quang, a father sobbed as rescuers pulled away his drowned livestock, his entire livelihood gone overnight. Hospitals overflowed. Doctors treated hypothermia, deep cuts, and infections from polluted water. One nurse worked 28 hours straight. She said there was no point going home. Her house was underwater anyway. Schools became shelters filled with mattresses, rice cookers, and jugs of clean water. Teachers comforted crying children as thunder rattled the windows. Outside, parents stared at their destroyed homes, wondering how to start over. "I don't fear the rain," one shopkeeper said quietly. "I fear how fast everything disappears." This flood wasn't just a disaster. It was a warning that in a changing climate, safety can vanish in minutes. And sometimes, so can hope. As floodwaters raged, the government launched one of its largest emergency responses in years. Over 12,000 personnel were deployed, soldiers, police, and disaster units, backed by hundreds of rescue boats, helicopters, and mobile medical teams. At dawn, soldiers waded through chest-deep water, knocking on doors and carrying residents on makeshift rafts built from plastic barrels. The Ministry of Defense airdropped 15 tons of food, bottled water, and medicine into cut-off villages. Power companies worked through the night, restoring electricity to 200,000 homes. Engineers reinforced river dikes under pounding rain while bulldozers cleared landslides that had trapped communes for nearly 2 days. Youth groups cooked meals in school kitchens, monks opened pagodas as shelters, and drone pilots on social media pinpointed stranded families for rescuers. Yet still the rain fell. Meteorologists warned that soaked soil could unleash new landslides at any moment, but Vietnam's morale held strong. Outside a flooded clinic, a weary doctor summed it up best. "We don't ask if it's hard. We ask who still needs help." Against the storm's fury, Vietnam proved one thing no flood can wash away: resolve. When the skies finally cleared, Vietnam awoke to a harsh reality. This wasn't a once-in-a-decade flood, it was part of a dangerous new pattern. Experts warned that warmer oceans, chaotic rainfall, and urban expansion are reshaping the nation's weather. Overbuilt suburbs have replaced wetlands once capable of absorbing monsoon runoff. Storms strike faster, harder, and with less warning. From the Gulf Coast to the Pacific, resilience can't wait until the water rises. If this story moved you, don't scroll past. Like this video to support real-time coverage. Share it because awareness saves lives. Subscribe for more in-depth reports on extreme weather. Together, awareness becomes action. And action builds futures that survive the storm.